Win.
We're live now. There we
Whoop,
go.
whoop, whoop.
Okay.
Turn my volume down.
Yeah. Oof. We don't want that.
We don't need my millions of messages coming through.
Okay, here we go. Let's go live here.
Bear
with
us.
Let's do this one.
Nice freeze frame.
Good Monday evening. Of course, that funshine music means, well, living low sodium time. And of course, if you are living low sodium with Mary Shep, she's going to tickle your taste buds with her salty wit, her exceptional palate, and all whilst guiding us through the land of low sodium. And of course, we need to give a big shout out to our good friends over at Reese's Barkery and Pautique. They are an independent, family-owned pet food and supply store that is open 7 days a week. They specialize in premium pet foods and have 25 different flavors of locally sourced homemade treats for our dogs, cats. They also carry a plethora of collars, leashes, toys, and accessories. And this is one of the places where they say, bring your pet on in, let them do the shopping. Check them out at www.reesesbarkery.com. Give them a call at 815-363-7297 or stop by the store with your pet at 1313 North Riverside Drive, McHenry. And of course, today in Living Low Sodium, my LoSo lifestyle, what's your beef?
Well, my first beef is I forgot the beef.
That is the beef.
Forgot the beef. I forgot to change my shirt. So tonight I'm rocking the Bremer team.
Yeah.
Sporting the Bremer team. If you guys know who the Bremer team is, Bremer team out of McHenry.
That's right.
Great real estate agent. Jen Beltram was my real estate agent for our house.
She did a great job.
She's fantastic. Forgot the beef. Forgot my notes. So full blown winging it today.
I had to think we've had 2 weeks to prep.
I even had last week off, so it's been a like not even proverbially. It's like the literal roller coaster ride of the last couple weeks. Some really good highs, really bad lows, ups and downs across the board. Some great news, bad news. The last 2 weeks have been quite the fun, old world. Fun house of mirrors kind of jacked up trip. But all's good. Everything happens for a reason. So, hey, Dad. Hey, Gwen. So, forgot my notes. I did actually make, if you guys follow me, I don't think I shared it on the page because it's a new beef recipe. So I was kind of, I just post it on my personal stuff before I share it if I don't have a recipe. And I had a huge batch to bring in for you guys, and I left it at the store. So if my crew doesn't ravage it, thinking that I brought it for them, it'll be there tomorrow, and I'll bring it back tomorrow so you guys can eat it on whatever show you feel like eating it on tomorrow.
Sure.
There's plenty of it.
Plenty of it.
So it was funny because as we were eating beefs the other night, my husband and I was trying to think of different show topics, what I wanted to, like, as I always do. And in the middle of it, I just start laughing because I'm eating a beef while I have a major beef with doctors and medicine and insurance. And, you're thinking, so I literally texted my sister who, I don't know if she still does practice accounting, but she's an accountant. She knows everything and anything, tax, anything ever that you need to know. So she's usually my go-to. So I should probably be claiming all my medical stuff, shouldn't I? Because you get a certain amount of, you get your automatic deductions.
Deductions, right? Mm-hmm.
But then I just did some quick math in my head, and I'm like, I pay $200 every paycheck. So, I pay 10, 11 grand a year, and just to have health insurance. And I have decent health insurance.
Yeah.
And then I have $4,500 max out of pocket. So I'm already at 15 grand
right now,
just for my max out of pocket. And that's for me. My husband's got $4,500 max out of pocket. So oh, hey, look, long time no see, Stephanie. So just my MRIs that I had last week, I had a brain, cervical, thoracic, and lumbar MRI to see what's going on with the lesions on my spine, find out what's happening. So the nice thing is, the good news was that I scheduled it over the course of 2 days. And I get there and the technician says, I know you scheduled it this way, but if you don't want to take the contrast 2 days in a row, which I don't want them to inject a contrast into my veins 2 days in a row. It makes you feel like garbage. And when your filtration system, like my liver, is broken, you really don't want more things that you have to filter through. So she says, if you're okay with sitting in the tube for 3 hours, we can do it all today. I don't have another appointment as of yet. So unless there's some kind of weird emergency, because I didn't do it at the hospital for that reason, because if they have an emergency, then you'll get bumped.
Right.
I said, yeah, sure. No, I don't care. Sure. She's like, it's more like 2.5, but you know, like sometimes whatever.
You can't get up and poop or pee during that time.
So you can and you can't. Now I did, and it was kind of funny because I said, no, I'm good. Believe me, this is not my first rodeo in this machine, and you guys have a great facility. I've been in their machine. It's an open MRI, so whatever.
I like the open ones, yeah.
But it was just funny because after all of the scans were done, and then she came in, she's like, we're going to inject the dye. I said, I really, really hate to do this to you. And I know that all you have to really do is take positioning images, because I've been through this before.
But
I said, unfortunately, and thankfully she was heavily pregnant, so she gets it.
Yeah.
I said, with my nerve damage, I'm very blessed in the fact that I can use the bathroom. I have full capability of all, full control of all of my bits. But there's no gray area. So it's either you do not have to pee at all, or you just spent 16 hours on the river and you're going to blow up and rupture something and die if you don't go now. So then, of course, when you look at my results later, one of the things from the radiologist who interpreted my scans said, enlarged bladder, check clinically.
Yeah.
So it was really complicated the way they wrote it, and I was laughing, and I was laughing, and my husband's like, what are you talking? I said, I'm pretty sure that the guy in the radiology department said you just have to check that she had to pee, because there was pressure coming from my bladder. But I did, so it was good news that I got to sit in the machine for 3 hours. But here's the thing that sucks. So technically, yes, she scanned my brain, my neck, my back, and my lower back. But there are 4 different scans. So it's $8,700 because they have to charge you for each one.
Wow.
So like right there, 20% of that is my responsibility. And that's just those scans. Like every year, this part's new. Every year I have to do all my liver stuff and
I tore my kitchen 6 years ago down to the studs and remodeled my kitchen for less than $5,000.
Right.
So think about that, people.
Right. I get it. The machines are unbelievably expensive. The staff, the radiologist that has to read it. Like, could you imagine being that guy? You went to med school. Like you're just any other doctor. You went decades of schooling and all this stuff. You get to just one after the other. Like, who you draw straws for that shift? Right. Like, who gets the 10-hour shift today to interpret the MRIs? Like, all right, so this lady's going to die. This one's doing pretty good. Hey, this one, and even in my MRI, it's funny because yes, it's an MRI of my spine, but it's also you can see my liver. So it's like 9 millimeter cyst in the lobe. It's been there since 2015. Same spot, same size, hasn't grown, hasn't shrank, hasn't nothing. It's just sitting there. It's unremarkable, as they always say, unremarkable. So I just thought that was kind of funny, but it's interesting that they still have to charge for each individual scan.
Wow.
So you've got 4 MRIs. But all of this got me thinking about these doctors, and all of these times I'm searching for a specific specialist, a neuroimmunologist. And I found one finally, but as I'm, you see on Facebook and all these other places, and this doctor, I need a new primary, I need a new OBG, or I need a new whatever, a foot doctor, or this doctor, a dermatologist. You see all these people, Joe Schmo is great. This person's awesome. Like, do you guys really have doctors that are that fantastic that spend time with you? Are you just pretty much basing that off of you haven't had any horrible experiences?
That's what it is, right? Yeah.
And why is it acceptable to sit in the lobby of a doctor's office for 2 hours? But I know everybody's talked about this a million times before. It's okay for them to charge you $100 cancellation fee, but I don't have to worry about the fact that I took 3 hours off work because my 20-minute appointment, it's going to take 3 hours.
Right.
When your facility is, no joke, about 7 minutes away from my work and like 6 minutes away from my home. And now I'm sitting here 5 hours later.
Getting through the highlight magazine.
Yeah. So that's my beef. That's like,
yeah, that's a good beef.
And I just think it's hilarious that that's the case. How is it that, and I don't want to discredit doctors because obviously they go through a lot.
Oh, they're amazing. Yeah.
And the continuing education that they have to go through to stay up on these things. But at the same time, you're going, maybe if you didn't have the absolute brand newest Porsche ever, you could see like 2 less patients so I could get a total of 6 minutes of your time instead of 1.5 minutes. That would be preferable.
I always just wonder what goes through their mind.
Right.
Like, well, I got to work on time. My first appointment's at 9, but I've got to finish this game of Tetris before. I mean, what exactly? I had the same thing. We talked a little bit about it in the green room. Is I was excited, sat down in the lobby for only 5 minutes. We're like, yes, here we go. Mm-hmm. Sat back in that room by myself for another 20.
Right, and that's what's so funny is I think about it, and I'm going. As you were telling me that, one of the times that I was at the doctor forever ago with when my spine issue originally happened. Oh, many of them, very few of them don't.
Oh yeah. I don't know. Eye doctors do.
No, the one that I saw when they sent me, because they wanted to look at my eyes because the possibility of neuromyelitis optica. And the same thing, like he goes, yeah, you have really high pressure in your eyes.
Gee, thanks.
So what does that mean? Nothing. And he walks. I was like, that's it. That's like, was it glaucoma? Is it like what is it?
The one nice thing about the eye doctor is you can at least try on glasses. There's something to do. You can
you can't see for 2 hours.
Right.
You walk around.
You just
dilated eyes walking around. You can't see nothing.
Yeah.
But yeah, the same as you. I'm in unbelievable pain, scared to death, might be paralyzed at some point in time or another. Same thing. They call. I was like, this is like, sit down. Oh, okay. You're gonna give me a minute. I gotta get back up. I might need help. Like, I didn't expect to have to get back up, or I wouldn't have sat down. And I thought I was gonna be sitting here for 3 hours and right back in the room. 2 hours later, I'm curled up in a fetal position on one of the side couches in their, like, well, you should just have left me out there. The couches are much more comfortable.
Yeah.
But how could, like, as I'm going through trying to find a doctor, and so now the neurologist that I found, the lady in the front of the office was very kind, but she had made the comment that, send all your files over. And I get that they want to see your stuff before they see you. But the way she worded it was that she wants, so she can look at your files to see if she wants to take you as a patient. And I'm actually very proud of the fact that I've taken and made a lot of effort to step back and process something before I respond. Unfortunately, that means a lot of times I lose the opportunity to say something really, really witty and I miss out. But it also stops me from being a complete and utter asshole or idiot more often than not. So I just accepted it and thought about it and then went, okay, so I get it now.
So what's your file say? Great personality, but WTF.
Right. But I get it because of the fact that she's not just a neurologist. She's a specialist neurologist. So if I'm coming to her because I have a headache or because I have I need a discectomy, well, that's a neurosurgeon. But either way, you get what I'm saying, where if it's not, then I get that. But at the same time, I'm going, you're one of 6 choices. And the other 2 are in their 70s and they teach the research program. So I guarantee you, I am never going to get to see that doctor. It will always be his staff.
Right.
And again, not to discredit them, but it sucks. I picture Doc Hollywood. I get to go in and there's a duck in the back room and a dog over on the side.
So I've been going to the pulmonary, doctor.
Right.
And so it's, hey, this can cause this, and this, and this, and you're pretty severe.
Yeah.
So you're like, well, okay, let's get that taken care of.
Right.
The first opening is in 45 days. I thought you said I was pretty severe and it could cause this, and this. Yeah, it can. That's
what's so when I have to give my doctor some credit because I wholeheartedly say, there's a lot that I don't like, but the one thing that I do like is the fact that if it wasn't for his persistence, I would probably be paralyzed. Because that's exactly what happened. They weren't seeing anything on my scans, so they sent me home. And it was funny because at first I knew that they thought I was some kind of pill popper because they kept asking me, well, do you need any painkiller? Nope. I don't want nothing. I want nothing. No. I don't want any of your drugs. I don't want anything.
Everybody's fine.
And they sent me home and said, follow up with neurology. So I said, okay. So I went home. Of course, by that time, it's, 10 o'clock at night. First thing the next morning, call a neurologist that they recommended, the office. It's the only one that's in the area. So outside of Northwestern Hospital, It is the only private practice neurology or whatever. They're 5 weeks out. And my husband looks at me. He's like, you can't walk. We going to rent a walker so you can go to work for the next 5 weeks? Right. He's like, you're progressively getting worse. I had to help you into the bathroom and onto the toilet.
That's a good husband. Thanks, man.
So, really? 5 weeks to wait and figure out why you're becoming paralyzed. So of course we called the doctor back and he said,
Whoops.
Go back to the ER. I'm going to call the ER, tell him to admit you. And we, another round of 3 more MRIs before they found out what was wrong. But it's always funny to me sitting here trying to find doctors that are good.
So.
And on top of all this, as I'm thinking about these beefs that I have with doctors, today, a customer comes into my store and he wants to copy some scans. And I had to explain to him that you can't. The hospital actually puts a driver software on the CD. Oh, hey, Tim. So that you can view the MRI scans.
Yeah.
Because you're not supposed to, we don't have the same software that the hospitals have to view these because they are huge files and it's complicated and it's almost more like a video that's broken down frame by frame. It's not something that we can copy. And as we were talking and he said something about how he's terrified because he's got to have back surgery, but his doctor, who's hilarious, says it's routine. He does it all the time, blah, blah, blah. And he says it's funny because he's hilarious. He's like, he's got a sense of humor. He's like, he's so funny. And I said, is his name funny too? Something off the wall, like yuck, yuck. And he looks at me. He's like, that's exactly his name.
Shut up.
And I was like, oh, well, you're in good hands because he fixed my husband about a decade ago. No way. So then he's got to drill me for like 7,000 questions.
That's
and I said, all I can tell, I don't know anything about, and I know a lot more than I say I do, but he's a customer. So I'm not going to, whatever. But I told him, I said, you are in phenomenal hands. And he is absolutely hilarious. He is one of the best doctors I've ever seen. He's a neurosurgeon. He is funny as hell. His bedside is amazing. The way he explains things, he took time. And he, no joke, my husband had a L5S1 laminectomy, disectomy. I think it was 2011 or 12, literally like a year before his car accident. And he fixed him. In and out overnight, one day. It was super, super fast. But it was just funny because we were talking. He says, yeah, how they gave me 5 doctors to pick from that they referred me to get this done. He's like, the first 3 of them I wanted to kill. He's like, they were downright assholes. Like, he's like, the one guy's asking me what kind of insurance I have and do I have multiple policies? Like, really? What are you going to like triple bill me? Like, what? Why does it matter? Either I have insurance or not. So like, that's my big beef. Like, how come I can't? Why isn't it like the movies where you get to interview, unless you're Gwyneth Paltrow or something and you have the big bucks to interview your gynecologist to make sure they want to give, deliver your baby. How come I can't get like a panel of neurologists to be like, who wants to take care of my ultra rare disease and no one can diagnose?
Well, you can.
So, if you want to pay them $150 visit appointment fee for every one of them.
That's right. That does not go towards your deductible. Either.
Yeah, no, right? I guarantee you that's not covered on insurance. That's straight up out of pocket.
That's right.
So.
Oh, beautiful.
But that's, the other one that was the side note on that is there's an app for everything on the planet. So I have an app for Good Shepherd and I have an app for Northwestern.
There's also a nice app for 21/6 and that out there.
I have that one too. And so I got an app for all these hospitals, so it makes it super easy for me to look up my scans. But for me to get my scans from any of them to the specialist I want to see, I have to physically, they can send the paper. So my doctor is going to send over like my blood work and all that stuff that I've ever had. But to actually give her the MRIs, which is the important bit that she needs to see of what's going on with my actual spine, I have to physically drive downtown Chicago or mail them.
Yeah, because they haven't integrated services yet.
Even within the same hospitals. If they weren't, so it's like, you gotta be kidding me.
Right.
That's just absolutely ridiculous. All of this beef while having beefs.
While having beefs.
Which, according to my husband, were orgasmic.
They were good.
Sorry that you don't get to have any.
Yeah,
today.
that's okay. I probably don't need any.
Yeah.
So you went Italian beef? Is that what you want?
It's kind of it's a hybrid sort of thing.
Interesting.
Because when you think of Italian beef, you think of like a sirloin thin sliced and chopped up, or
the cheese,
the stuff like that.
And the jus.
I cheat and do either stew meat or sirloin roast and let it shred. Because in all honesty, it just tastes better to me. Unless I'm getting like oh, hey, Alex. And I am doing well. Thank you for asking. So I do it's a shredded version just because when you do that thin slice stuff at home, to me, it just doesn't really retain any flavor. It's the au jus that has the flavor.
That's right.
So you might as well just put a boatload of onions and cheese and jardiniere and soak your bread in the au jus sauce, because
that sounds good.
The beef really doesn't taste like anything. So I do.
You're a shredder.
Mm-hmm.
You get it nice and soft and shred it all up with a fork and little cheese on it, some peppers and.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what we did.
What kind of bun do you use? What do you prefer?
So I wish I had the brand. I get them at Sam's Club. They are by no means low sodium at all, not even a little bit. But they're almost the same as the ones you would get at like Portillo's or Tommy's or something like that, where the outside is flaky but not hard, crusty, like an Italian bread.
Right.
And then the inside is that, wholly pocketed, very chewy kind of Italian, perfect kind of sub bread. And I will sacrifice because I make my own beefs. I make my own everything else, the sauteed onions, all that good stuff. So I'll sacrifice the 400 milligrams because it's 450 milligrams for one roll.
But you don't have to sop it in the jus before you put the meat on it.
I can because it's my au jus and it doesn't have any salt added to it.
Always delicious, yeah.
But yeah, no, this time it was, I might have overpacked my crock pot because it was like 8.5 pounds of beef.
Whoa.
So it took a solid like 8 hours, maybe 10 to cook down. But it was 2 bay leaves, low sodium Worcestershire sauce. I think probably a 1/4 cup of Lighthouse blend Italian dehydrated herbs is one of my favorites next to the Dax spices. So the Lighthouse blend, and then some paprika, a boatload of garlic, and by a boatload, roughly an entire head of garlic.
Nice.
Diced up and thrown in there. And normally I add some red pepper flake, and this time I forgot.
Just for a little heat.
Yep, just a little tang. So it's really not a super complicated, but you layer all that in, just with the seasoning, and then I add about a cup or 2 of vegetable low sodium Pacific Foods vegetable stock. And that's it.
That's it.
And cook it as long as you want to cook it.
And then a little mozzarella. Or what do you go with?
So I went with cheddar.
With cheddar. Interesting.
And we were actually talking about that. Like, why would you go all of these sandwiches, all these beefs?
Are very Italian, right?
The Italian beefs, the Philly cheesesteaks. Yeah. I mean, some of the Philly cheesesteaks, depending on which side of the street you buy them from in Philly, they have the cheese whiz instead of the provolone.
Yes, they will.
So that's always the battle. But so many of them have these mozzarellas and provolones, and they're such a mild cheese. Like, why even put cheese on it?
You want something with a little.
Right. Give me a stinky cheese, some Gruyere, or, a cheddar or something that's got a little bit of bite to it. Because when you have a really well-seasoned beef in jardiniere, or like I make my onions with wine, the cheese doesn't taste like anything. And that's why I make everything so low sodium, so I can put 16 pounds of cheese on it.
That's it.
But part of that whole beef thing is I get a lot of people who ask me how I can eat beef when I have cirrhosis.
Right, because it's hard to break down.
Right. So proteins are more difficult for your body to digest than other vitamins and minerals and compounds, because the protein itself in your gut, and if I had my notes, I could probably be a little bit more scientific about this than what my brain is going to remember. But the hydrochloric acid and something else in your gut actually break down the protein into amino acids. So certain proteins are what they call complete proteins, which have all 9 amino acids, and some are not. So like red meat and fish and things like that, that's why they always say if you're vegetarian, you got to find a way to get those proteins somewhere else, because you don't have a complete protein. So it's just a lot more difficult, and you have to be careful, because if you eat, what do most people eat a protein with? Potatoes. You eat it with a starch, and that carb is also hard for your body to digest. So a lot of times that's where part of that balance comes in. So you need to try, because so if you ever find yourself getting heartburn,
always
because of a protein, you need to eat it with something that will balance out, something that has more of an alkaline like real vegetables. The more you cook them, the more you take that out of there. So you need like a salad or, just a warmed through kind of green bean or something of that nature. And by green bean, I mean not like, and I love canned green beans. I eat them all the time. But an actual real vegetable. So then you flip to the side of animal protein versus plant protein. And that's this, with this big kick right now of, oh yeah, and there's no, I thought it was a good idea to have that, but
no way. What is the difference between animal and plant proteins? Medically reviewed by Natalie.
Yeah. I can see 22. So is it 22 caliber or 22 amino acids? Yes. I'm going to guess it's based on this program. It's probably going to be 22 amino acids.
That's very nice.
Which I think your body can create by itself, like 6 of them or something like that. But either way, so animal protein versus plant protein, obviously everybody knows they're 2 totally different things. Plant proteins are easier to digest, but there's certain things that you get from animal proteins that you can't get from plant and vice versa. And so it's not that I say that it's bad to be vegetarian.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think a lot of them pay really close attention to the amount of processing in the foods that they're eating. So when you need some protein for something, because, if you're vegetarian or vegan or whatever, and you're not getting it from beef. So a lot of times people go to whey protein, and whey, like curds and whey from a milk product. You have to worry about whether or not you have that milk allergy, which even if you have a milk allergy, not very many people have the whey
Yeah, whey
issue.
Also creates a little bit of inflammation too.
It does. And part of that is because it's not complete. You've dismantled it. You've processed it. So, and again, we were talking about this before, that if you want an orange and eat an orange, it's complete. Fructose, glucose, fiber, vitamins, minerals, all of these things, it's complete. The second you put it through a juicer, then you have water and sugar. And yes, some of the vitamins kind of come through with it as well, but it is no longer complete, and it completely skews things. And now you are not necessarily having a healthy product.
I like it with a little bit of vodka. The orange juice. Yeah.
That's very tasty. Yeah. I have it with soda water, and it tastes like a mimosa.
Oh, nice.
Because I can't drink anymore. So a little soda water and orange juice tastes like a nice little mimosa.
So, I mean, and that's why when when I was a kid, I'm a little bit older than you, but you were probably a kid too. A lot of vegetarians would also eat fish.
Yep.
Because then
pescatarian or whatever.
Yeah, because then I was able to get some protein that way outside of plant protein.
Right. And again, a lot of like they'll eat eggs and things like that. And eggs are absolutely fantastic for you.
This year.
Right.
That poor egg has been through. And if you
missed it, we talked about this on a previous show about the 100-year history of food. And it is funny because like even saturated fats that have been the devil for so long, and they're discovering that it's not necessarily the case that you should have them. And again, it comes back to the whole, when everybody asks, what is it you do? So I was visiting someone the other day, and they said something about, because there's pills. And I just laughed like, oh, of course, those pills got to be itty bitty. Every time I've been in the hospital, I said, the last time I was in the hospital, I got big giant potassium pills. They're about the size of my foot.
Right.
So the nurse looks over. She says, what were you on if you don't mind me asking, why were you on potassium pills? I said, I have cirrhosis. Oh. And she stops dead in her tracks, and she just flips around because we're having a conversation. So she's doing whatever she's doing. Right. She turns around. You like cirrhosis of the liver? Yep. I don't know that there's any other kind, but that's the one I got. She goes, you look really good for somebody who has cirrhosis.
Well, thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And she, well, what do you do? I eat food.
I work hard at it, right? Yeah.
And she's just looking at me like, huh? I said, And it's hard because that's it. It's the difference between eating a real food item.
Yeah.
You throw spinach in a pan, not something, and not to knock frozen foods, because I do eat a lot of frozen foods, and sometimes frozen fruits and vegetables are absolutely fantastic because of the fact that they are frozen at their peak and shipped, versus something that's coated in some kind of wax or pesticide to be able to be shipped from Mexico or wherever it's shipped to survive the long haul. So sometimes the frozen option is really the best option. Yeah. It also, like with strawberries and stuff like that, it reduces how many germs and bacteria can grow on them in the time frame and so on and so forth. But the more often that you can literally just eat actual real product whole in its natural form is your best option. And that's why the whey proteins tend to upset your stomach, because there's additives, they're anti-caking materials so that the powder doesn't turn into a big thick brick at the end of the thing. And, you know, if you have gluten sensitivities and they add some kind of compound that has any kind of gluten, or if it's processed in a gluten material or plant. So when you have, you know, the old, like the riddle, the old rhymes, curds and whey, when you have an actual milk product with the cheese and everything else, it's complete. And when you take it all away, it's no different when we had Kim Nordine on here talking about bread.
Yeah.
When you mill your own flour, you get the wheat and the germ, the oils, the proteins, and all the vitamins and all of that. When you buy it at the grocery store, it's processed, and pretty much all you're left with is gluten and sawdust. So you have nothing left in there.
Delicious.
And that's the big difference. So that's literally all I do is I eat real food, and through that balance has afforded me the luxury of not being on any medications. And that's, I think, what shocked her the most is when I threw that in and said, yeah, and I don't take any, I do. I mean, it's wintertime, so I take vitamin D pills. When eggs are bad.
Yeah, you say your dad saying when eggs are bad, buy egg type stocks. When they're good for you, sell.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. But the proteins, because they're harder to digest, they do tax your body a little bit more. Yeah. So when you're someone like me or anybody that has liver issues, kidney issues, when you have any kind of digestive issue, you obviously don't want to give it any kind of upset. So your doctors have a tendency to say, you know, eat less of this, that, or the other. And red meat specifically tends to have more fats. Yeah. Which your body processes differently. And of course, if you eat too much of it, you can end up with fatty liver in addition to cirrhosis. So it's, you know, you just have to be, you have to be careful. So when people ask me that, I have to flat out tell them that you have to figure it out on your own. I had a lady not too long ago reach out to me and said she saw a post I did about meatloaf. And I said, well, unfortunately, I can't answer that, because her other half was very recently diagnosed with liver disease. And she said the doctor said to avoid red meat entirely, but he needs protein. So, well, I've been down that path, because when you stop eating protein and you have a chronic disease and you lay around doing nothing for a while, you also get muscular atrophy and you start losing weight, and it can be a very difficult balance to keep on weight. And they have that same problem with like AIDS patients and cancer patients to keep weight on. So a lot of times they do have, the only choice they have is to do those whey substitutes and protein shakes and peanut butter powders, you know, the peanut powder and stuff like that. And it's not that they're bad. I know a lot of, you know, bodybuilders and such, because protein repairs muscle, that they use it as well. So it's not that you shouldn't use it. It's that you need to pay attention to what it says.
That's a big thing.
And it's amazing to me, because so a girl that works for me today has this new kind of little coffee drink she got. And I'm reading the label making fun because it said like super coffee, literally super coffee. And it's just a little drink. And as I go, I'm gonna. She's like, oh, don't do that. And I'm spinning around to read the back label to see what's in it. She's like, I don't want to know what's in it. I said, let me guess, it cost you $1 million too. She says, pretty much. It was like $4 little coffee drink. And I look, and I was surprised because
vitamin B.
It was predominant. It was coffee and cream, and like it was fairly vegan, regular, whatever.
Yeah.
There was like 6 ingredients, all of which I could pronounce. So I was pretty shocked. But it was just laughing because she's, what's so funny? I said, you know how many times I pick up a bottle or a food product, especially when it says super on it, right. And it doesn't have something that and I can pronounce a lot of foods because I researched because most of them, what's the one? The xanthan gum I have in my cupboard. It's derived from a plant product. It's an emulsifier. It makes your Panera soups beautifully thick and creamy every single time. So a lot of those things are exactly that. Just because it's a big, long word that you can't pronounce doesn't mean that you can't, that it's bad for you. It's just the scientific chemical word for whatever it is you're eating.
Yeah.
But you have to know what it is.
Hi, Derek.
Hey, Derek. So that's the thing is it's not that you can't have it just because you can't pronounce it, but you need to know what it is.
So, and here's what's wrong with human beings.
A lot. So are we going long today? Because so we got 15 minutes left in the show.
Yes, we don't stop to read. What we do is we say, looks good.
Mm-hmm. Hey, it says low sodium.
Smells good.
Yeah.
And it says low sodium. Let's go with it. Yet we don't read anything. Just because it doesn't say sodium doesn't mean that there's something in there that's going to act like
potassium chloride. Yeah.
But if you watch your dog, if you are a dog lover, well, I'm a dog lover. And if you see a dog eating its own poop, that means it's malnutrition, right? Humans maybe should just try that.
Could you imagine?
Oh, I think
Did you see John over there? He was digging through the toilet. He just grabbed a whole handful.
Now there are books. There are books out there, right? What your poo tells you, and things like that. It tells you a lot. It could tell you a lot, but we don't take the time to do that. Instead, we say, I don't know. Totino's pizza rolls is going to make a good meal tonight. Right. Yeah, and not that. Hey, listen, I've eaten a lot of Totino's pizza rolls. Same. But if you read what's in there, you're like, oh, no wonder I don't feel well after this. But start maybe tasting your own poop a little bit. And no kid, and it's. I'm kidding. Do not. This is I am not a doctor.
That's not good medical advice.
But you could study it.
We're going to have an outbreak of diphtheria
in
County.
Get blamed. 21-6. Send all your emails to Peter at 21-6.
Send your hate mail to Peter. But that's the thing is, it's, I don't know. Let's see. Derek says, my question is, with all of this change, I can never figure out what is really healthy for you and not. Real food.
Yeah,
that's my answer.
Raw, real.
Apples, grapes, cashews, chocolate covered almonds.
I'll tell you, today, my snacks were apple, some cheese, Colby Jack. I went with.
It's a good choice.
I did a little bit of Chobani Greek yogurt with the cherries on the bottom.
See, that's another one that makes me angry. Is yogurt. I was getting different infections and different things and having different problems, and I was doing so good for a long period of time, and this was early on in my liver diagnosis. And it was suggested that I eat yogurt and probiotics and whatnot and balance out my digestive tract because I was having issues. And part of it was because I had to eat so much protein because I was trying to repair the muscle damage from having muscular atrophy. because after I had, literally just a week in the hospital, and I lost like 20% or something. It was ridiculous. I lost a huge amount of weight. All of it was in my muscle mass, not in my fat, because you have to burn fat. Your body will literally start consuming your muscle like nobody's business.
Correct.
But it takes 10 times longer to build up your muscle. Yeah. And of course, if protein is harder to digest, how can you up your protein without killing your liver? So I had to find this balance. But that's where when you eat a lot of protein, especially animal protein, to break it down into the amino acids, your stomach has to create more hydrochloric acid, which is where you get heartburn and acid reflux from. So if you don't balance that out with something that's going to be more alkaline and bring your stomach acid down, there's that fine balance. Yeah. So I would eat certain things that I hated, like a banana, beforehand, and get certain fibers and plants and whatever in salads to be able to balance out and have complex carbs and good carbs and things like that, so that I could have the proteins and not have the acid reflux and the issues that came along with it. So it was a significant balance. Now, it's funny because Derek said that, some things are good now, but in 10 years, they will be bad for you. Yeah. In all honesty.
Enjoy it now. Who knows? You may not be around for another 3 years. Come on.
Right.
Who gives a shit about 10 years?
I don't know. We were watching a show about meteors and asteroids the other night. So the Armageddon might be coming pretty soon. I think tonight I might have to go have some ice cream or something. But even with meat and animal protein, beef, chicken, and if you, and that's why I'm fat. Is it because I keep inviting you and your wife out for ice cream? Right. Yeah. But even and people don't think about the processing of animal proteins. You think, it's the animal is dispatched and it's cut in pieces and it's put in a package and it's sent to you. And that's not necessarily the case. There's a lot that goes into how they're raised. Like chickens aren't supposed to be big boobed little dinosaur creatures. They're supposed to be fairly lean. So if you go to, Italy or something, where on a mountaintop, some Italian grandma still has her flock that she raises and slaughters and raises and slaughters, their legs are a little bit bigger than their boobs are, because they're not meant to have this big top heavy, but that's, the American culture. That's what we want, big boobs. So we put them on everything, including our chickens.
Yes, please.
Right? Like, who hasn't invented the chicken bra? Is that coming out soon? Like a little over the shoulder turkey holder? But that's the thing. Like with Fresh from the Farm in Henry County. Yeah. And we've started this movement. If you haven't seen the group, check it out. To try and support the farmers in the area. And so Nicole and I, a friend of mine who helps me admin the group, she's actually been on my show. We split a pig from Hidden Marsh Farms, and she sends me a message with this picture of a piece of pork chop. Like, oh my God, like, are you kidding me?
Delish.
I said, I know. And I get it. You can get pork for like 99 cents a pound at Sam's Club. It is not the same product. No. And then, of course, now with COVID and taking to light all of the, the processing plants and the conditions that these people work under and so on and so forth. And some of these big giant commercial farms and how they treat their animals. But there's something to be said for the animal itself and how it's raised, how it's processed, what it's fed. And I get the whole genetically modified. Pretty much everything on the planet is genetically modified. If I put two types of seeds together and come up with a different kind of tomato, that is genetically modified. Like, I hate to break it to you. It's terrible. So unless you're cloning human babies, like your tomatoes are probably going to be genetically modified. But that's the thing, is less processed, real product is the best option, hands down, all the time. And even if you go out to eat at a restaurant.
And that's why, there's certain chicken companies. Oh, my chickens aren't, The
fact that you have to brag that there's no hormones, no this, no that, no nothing in your chicken. or beef or whatever it is
Right,
that
or whatever it is.
whatever you're selling that you have to brag that you didn't put any garbage in it, says that you put garbage in it before.
That's right.
So we stopped doing it because you guys found out. And now that you know about it, we can't do it no more.
Yeah, I think that if the other thing I think when it comes to eating healthy is slow down.
Right.
Here's the deal: is when you don't plan, that's when you get fat, because you're just like, today. So I've eaten, I planned out, I packed it all up in my lunchbox, all that good stuff, and I'm hungry, but I planned it out. Had I not done that, I'd have been like, well, 2 McChickens for $2.50.
Right.
I'll take 4 because I'm hungry. But because I had it planned out, and so my caloric, the other thing is to eat dense caloric things,
right.
Grapes, things that fill you up.
So that's what's always funny to me
calories
is you can eat, a triple cheeseburger that's like 9,000 calories and 5,000 milligrams of sodium and sugar and all these other things. But if you eat a handful of grapes, you're full.
Yeah. It doesn't take more than 10.
Right.
Yeah.
So how is it you can cram all, you could just eat until you're purple.
A half-pound hamburger.
Right. It's the funniest thing. And that, so when you start eating real food, and that's why I tend to keep cashews and dark chocolate covered almonds in my drawer mixed together. Sometimes I put some pepitas, which are pumpkin seeds, all unsalted. And now that I have an unsalted palate, I am perfectly happy with that. Sure. They are so cashews are like these sweet, wonderful.
They are really.
They really are. But such a small amount of that snack. So I eat all day, but then I don't get tired. So if I eat all the time, constantly throughout the day, I don't have a crash. Yep. I don't have a sugar rush. I don't have an up and down. I don't have all of that thing. So
you don't get that 2:30 want to take a nap.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what, when you eat a big meal, and even when my husband and I always thought it was funny because we eat like there is zero portion control at our dinner table.
Yeah.
And we sit down after dinner and it's not, it's not like Thanksgiving dinner where you feel like you want to die and you're going, oh my God, I need a nap and now nothing's going to get done and I'm cooked for the rest of the night. 10 minutes later, I'm going, do we have Girl Scout cookies? Like ice cream? What do we got?
There are certain foods that tend you to want a chocolate chip cookie afterwards or something. You're just like
all of them,
right?
All of them?
But that's why I'm looking forward to. Of course, next week we'll be down in Florida and we've got a bed. We did an Airbnb.
Oh, nice.
So we're gonna be making. But I'm excited for some fresh seafood down there and just to be able to make, some different cuisine.
Sure.
That's fresh. That you don't necessarily get here fresh.
Yeah. See, that's I'm trying my hardest to eat more fish.
Love fish.
But it's. Granted that the whole frozen fish thing has gotten way better than it used to be, so everything's not so disgusting. And fish sticks aren't your only
Mrs.
option.
Paul's fish sticks,
right? Which I would down an entire box of those if you gave me half a chance. And I'm not gonna lie, I've been partial to Culver's cod dinner lately.
No, you mentioned that. Yeah,
you tell them not to salt it, and the sodium is not that bad. It's not greasy, and I eat fish instead of red meat, so. I'm supposed to eat fish 2 or 3 times a week, and I'm sorry that one time happens to be a Culver's cod dinner. Well, what can you say? I don't eat the coleslaw because that literally was, I think it's just sugar.
Yeah, that coleslaw.
I'm pretty sure it's
good.
just cabbage and sugar.
I love a good coleslaw though. I
do. Because you never know if we have it tomorrow. That's funny.
That's right.
So, yeah, but it is funny to me how so many people not to knock vegetarians, because I have two of my crew members are vegetarians. But so many of them, it's this hoity-toity because I don't eat red meat and I'm healthier than you. That's not necessarily the case. Like just because you eat animal protein. And now here's the funny thing is, like Derek said, where you give it 10 years and it'll be bad for you and then it'll be good for you. So almost all of the studies that show that red meat and animal protein increases your risk of cardiovascular failure or cardiovascular disease.
Yeah.
You have to have another underlying fact. So it's not just if you are 100% healthy person and you eat red meat, you're increasing your risk of heart disease. It's if you eat red meat and you're a smoker, if you eat red meat and you drink, even if it's just socially, if you eat red meat and you've had anybody in your immediate family that has heart conditions or blood clots or whatever. So it's always you eat red meat and this, and you have an increased risk, not just purely that you eat red meat. Now, on the flip side of that, has it been proven that proteins from plant-derived sources are better for you? That is true. The problem is most people who eat protein from plant-derived sources, they're eating a processed product. They're not just eating more peas to get the amount of protein. They're not eating a pea smoothie. They're getting pea protein and adding it to their chocolate smoothie,
right.
Which, again, is defeating the purpose. So you got to pay attention to what's in it. But if that's the only way that you can up your protein content because all you're eating is lettuce all day long, then...
Right. Well, and moderation is the key, as Derek says. Of course, my moderation is a little bigger than others. And we, when Pete was here, we talked about that. We talked about serving size. I mean, the little Ben & Jerry...
That's ridiculous.
Little Ben & Jerry pints, that's a serving.
So it's funny that you bring up that because my favorite ice cream is Baskin-Robbins peanut butter and chocolate ice cream.
Oh, yeah.
The way that the ribbons of peanut butter through it are just, it's my jam.
It's delicious.
And my husband and I, many years ago, long story short is that we don't do gifts. We don't do Valentine's Day. We don't do Sweetest Day. It's a waste. It's a crock. It's a piece of crap. It's a joke. I don't get it. I don't care.
Alice and I
we don't even do birthdays. We don't. We don't do Christmas. And he doesn't do it as much now because of the fact that I do have a diet restriction. But I would much rather my husband get me a pint of peanut butter ice cream on a Tuesday.
Boom.
Because he thought about me. Yeah, there you go. Like, I drove by Baskin-Robbins. I know you like this, or I saw it in the grocery store.
Just thinking
about it. And even when if he came home and said, I saw it, I didn't get it because I read it and it says it's 9,000 milligrams of sodium. So I didn't. Can you believe it? But even if we have that conversation, just the fact that he thought about me on a Tuesday, that's what I want. That's what I want to be married to the rest of my life. Not some guy who gets me something on Sweetest Day because
you're supposed to.
Society said he had to spend $8 million on flowers when he could have bought me a plant at Home Depot for $9.99.
Right.
So, but I looked at the jar because I saw it at Jewel. They have them in the little pint little half pints, I think they are.
Yeah.
But they've taken to, and I love this part. Soup cans do the same thing now, where a serving is listed nutritionally. So your serving is 410 milligrams of sodium. And then per container,
it's like 1.5 or 1 3/4
like
or something.
1,262 milligrams of sodium. Like, that's 2.5. You're telling me you get 2.5 servings out of this cup of, who gets 2.5 servings? And watch sausages, like bratwurst. You'll get like a 5-pack of brats and it's like 15. How do you get 15 servings? They're like 12 servings. How do you get 12 out of 5?
It's moderation.
But the little tub was like 500 milligrams of sodium. So I was like, wah, wah. Like, so I went home and I had chocolate cherry ice cream instead.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe possibly with some Girl Scout cookies in it.
You got the fruit in there. So it made it.
Yeah, fruit has dark chocolate.
That's it. That's antioxidants.
Girl Scout cookies count as a food group, right?
Antioxidants.
I think in some cultures.
Well, I don't think they would be outside. They wouldn't be selling them outside of grocery stores if they did.
Right. See, that has to be true. I saw it on Facebook. It has to be true.
It has to be true.
Someone said it on Facebook, so it's got to be true.
It has to be true.
So yeah, no, that's the thing is, if you read the labels.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, there's a healthier option. So if you still want your peanut butter ice cream, I bet you any money someone else, a Blue Bunny or a Ben and Jerry's or whoever is going to make one that has more natural products or less products. So it's not say that you can't have any of those things. Just read the labels. And if you have an option or if you want to go out to eat, you go out to a place that cooks with real food.
Yeah.
And that makes all the difference.
Big difference.
And you'd be surprised how many places make their own salad. You never think about it. And when you ask, they say, yeah, we make all our dressings in-house. Holy crap, you kidding? Like, yep, Thousand Island, all of them. We make all of them. And yes, I know that's still mayonnaise in a jar mixed with ketchup and other things and whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Relish, but it's still good.
But it's not filled with all sorts of processed crap shipped across the country, stored in a container with some preservatives that's going to preserve my liver longer than it's going to support me.
Well, folks, and now you know what's her beef.
Nah. Doctors and beef.
Of course, the music does mean that we're at the top of the hour. Thank you so much. Very humbled for spending a little bit of time with us here. Getting caught in the net, 216 the net. Living low sodium with our good friend Mary Shep. Follow her, Facebook, follow her. She's got a website too out there, right? What is it?
MyLoSoLifestyle.com.
Check her out. And remember, as Derek says, moderation is the key. Just know what size you're moderating to. Hey, come back tomorrow evening. Well, tomorrow morning, of course, compete in the morning, but tomorrow evening on Anything Goes with Bremer and Jones, a very unique panel for the Board of Education will be here. So if you got questions that you'd love to just ask some of these people.
Eat my beefs that I bring in?
They may. So it will have a special moderator. One Miss Bobby Bainey will be here moderating. And Bremer and Jones will be here. It's going to be fun with, I think, like six of the Board of Education people, candidates. So get to know a little bit about them. It's going to be fun.
Fantastic.
All right, everybody. Until then, be good to each other, eat well, and remember, shred the beef. Don't just get strips of beef.
Yeah.
There you go.
Reese's Barkery and Paw Tea.